Hi, my name is Haley Prescott. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be speaking about idols. I know this could be such a sensitive topic sometimes because nobody wants to hear that they have an idol in their life. I didn't want to hear it. I'm sure you would not like to hear that you have an idol in your life or that you are worshiping an idol. But I think it's a necessary conversation, a conversation that actually needs to be had. You can also follow me on the various social media platforms. So on Instagram at Haley Prescott, on Facebook at Haley Prescott, and now on TikTok, which I believe the name is Haley_Haley_. I just made it. I believe that's what it is. I will put it somewhere on the screen so you'll be able to see it. I think that that's what the name actually is, right? So just on these different platforms and social media platforms, you're just going to see previews for the videos. You're going to see some encouragement. You're going to see some quotes. You're going to see various things. Might be a photo of me every now and then, a video every now and then, but specifically for TikTok, all of that stuff, yes. But also I want to do some more encouragement videos. So you will get random encouragements. You're going to get some behind the scenes. You're going to get some story times. Anything I feel like just putting on there, that's where it's just going to go. It's just going to go on TikTok. And I hope that you'll be blessed with it so that not only would you be just seeing the word of God, but you would be seeing how a Christian, I guess, hears from God, how I experience God. So I just hope that that encourages you. But let's not stay any longer. Let's actually get into the video. What is an idol? What is idolatry? Okay, let me pray, Lord. I pray that you would help me to actually speak this message. Let it be you that's speaking through me and not just me speaking. Lord, I pray that you would give me the boldness and the confidence to actually say what needs to be said and only what you would have me say. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So about 4 years ago or 5 years ago, when I was first, I guess, coming back to Christ, I remember that I was laying on the bed, I was watching this video. I cannot remember if the video was about idolatry or not. I do remember I was watching some video. And I remember just asking God, I believe I asked him, is there any idols in my life or something like that? And at the time I was seeing someone, or I was in some type of situationship with somebody, I think so. And I remember clearly that he said, he is an idol. I got so offended. I think I got so defensive too. I was like, what do you mean he's an idol? I'm like, he's not an idol. I don't look up to him. He's not any role model in my life. He's not but idol what? He's not an idol in my life, because I knew who he was speaking about. But I began actually researching and looking at what idols were. And I found the definition for what an idol was. And when I did, I was like, oh, yeah, I get it. I see what you mean. I see what you mean. My bad. We got there eventually, We got to the truth eventually, but at first I was just like, no. So that was my experience personally, where he showed me this person in my life was actually an idol. But what is an idol? When I think of the word idol, I think of two things. Two things comes to mind. The first thing is an idol, some type of role model, some type of important person, perhaps is an actor, is a famous football player, a famous writer, a famous singer, some person of influence, right? And then the other side of it, when I think of idol, I think of graven images, probably a golden calf. I think about a statue. I think about some type of idol. I don't want to use the word again, but some type of statue that somebody is bowing to or worshiping or leaning over to. That's what I think of when I think of idols. But within the context and the biblical context, especially with God, when we're speaking about idols, it could be a thing or it could be a person. Honestly, it doesn't have to be just an object. It can actually be a person. So for example, in my life, where the idol was a person. So before we get even deeper into that, what I like to say, and even in researching, what I've found is that the idol is the thing, idolatry is the act. So what is idolatry? So I just want to read to you what I have here. So worship of something or someone other than God, meaning extreme adoration, love, honor, respect, right? It is anything that people esteem, anything that people put higher or higher than God, rather. And it is anything people put high and draws all their attention away from God. So it is three things. It is not only what you worship, it's not only what you love and you adore and all of these things. It is not only what you place so high, but it is also what is drawing your attention away from God. It's those things combined. But I also want to share another definition with you that listen, when I read this, I said, I'm like, Lord, I gotta go and pray now, because I feel like I got some idols in my life. I'm like, wait a minute. Idolatry starts in the heart. It is a craving, it is a wanting and enjoying, a being satisfied by anything that you treasure more than God. So idolatry is this wanting, it is this desire, it is this thing that you just want and desire, that you want after so much. Not only that, it is something that you are satisfied by, something that truly, truly satisfies you, and something that you crave. So it is what you enjoy more than God. It is what you crave more than God. It is what you are being satisfied by more than God. It is what you enjoy more than God. The article also goes on to say that it's loving more than God that which you should love less than God. And there's some things in our lives, honestly, there's so many things in our life that we love more than God, when really and truly we should be loving it less than God. Not that you can't love it, but that we love it too much and we love it more than we actually love God. We crave it more than we actually crave God, or desire God. And that's when it becomes idolatry. And then the third thing, that the article pointed out that just had me like, it said it's the thing or the person loved more than God and treasured or enjoyed more than God. And then it went on to give examples. So it can be a girlfriend, a boyfriend. It could be a spouse. It could be marriage. It can be a friend, a brother, a sister. It could be good grades. It could be a promotion. It could be a job, success. It could be business. It could be money. It could be sex or sexual stimulation. It could be a hobby. It could be music. It could be a group. It could be a sport. So really, anything that you truly love, crave, enjoy, desire more than God, that can be an idol, and that can lead you to committing idolatry. And to you, that might seem like, okay, I get all of that, but I would never do that. I would never worship no man. I would never worship my job. I would never worship any money. I don't love money more than I love God. I would never do that because I know God. But there's a scripture that I found, and it's Romans 1:21. And it says, people knew God, but they did not honor him as God, and they did not thank him. Their ideas were all useless. There was not one good thought left in their foolish minds, right? That's the easy to read version. But the Message version, when I tell you in the Message version, it just, like, I don't know, it just keeps it 100%. It keeps it real. It's just like, I'm not playing with you. This is what it is. And it says this, it says, people knew God perfectly well, but when they didn't treat him like God, refusing to worship him, they trivialized themselves into silliness and confusion, so that there was neither sense nor direction left in their lives. They pretended to know it all, but they were illiterate regarding life. They traded the glory of God, who holds the whole world in his hands, for cheap figurines you can buy at any roadside stand. First of all, you didn't have to come at me like that. But it is true. Honestly, it is. The truth is, we might say, okay, we would never commit idolatry, or we would never worship an idol because we know God. I get it, because we might say, you know what, I would never do this because I know God and I know how faithful God is, and I would never worship any man. I would never worship my job. I would never bow to any money. I would never do any of these things or love or crave these things more than I do God. But we do it, and we claim that, yes, we would never do it because we know God. But many of us, we know God, but we don't honor him as God. We think that we know God, but we don't actually respect him as God. And we do that a lot. Even in my life, it's like, okay, well, I know God, I know of God, I have a personal relationship with God, but am I worshiping him as God? Am I honoring him as God? So we might know of him and we might know him, but do we actually worship him like he's God? Do we actually set aside time? Do we actually respect him? Do we actually surrender to him? Do we actually obey him? That means to worship him as though he is God. That means to honor him as though he is God. So that's just something that we do. And I think that something else people might say, you might say like, well, Haley, that's not fair. So you're trying to tell me, if I have this favorite movie that I just love, if I have this favorite sport that I love, if I have this marriage that I just crave for, I love, that I desire, you're trying to tell me that that is wrong, that I can't love those things? And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can love those things. You can love the marriage. You can love the sport. You can love the celebrity. You can do all of those things, the book, the author, the job. You can. But you can't love it more than God. When you start to love it more than God, that is when it becomes an idol. That is when it becomes idolatry. And that's not what we want in our lives. I think something else people might say is like, well, you're telling me that I can love these things, but just don't love it more than God, because I need to just love God. So you're trying to tell me that God needs all of this attention. And the truth is, no, God doesn't need the attention, but he wants your attention. He wants you to look at him. He wants your eyes to be on him. He wants your heart to be towards him. He wants you. It's not that he needs you, it's that he wants you. So when we talk about not loving the thing more than God, we're saying it's not that you can't love it. It's not that you can't desire it. What I'm saying is that you don't want to love it more than God. And to do it more than God is to commit idolatry or to have an idol in your life. So a question that people might ask is, why do I care? Why should I care about, like, if I love something more than God or not? Like, why should I even be bothered by it? Why does God even care if I actually do it? Why does God care if I love something more than him? And I would just make this statement: God is a jealous God. And that might sound very weird. It's like, how God could be like a jealous God. Like, how he's God, why would he be jealous? Why would he have this human emotion, right? So we have to just break it down. And the example I would give is, let's say that you're in a relationship and you're in a relationship with this person, and you love this person, you desire this person, you crave this person, like you just enjoy the person's company, right? And you decide you're going to set up this date. You set up this nice date, this nice romantic date, all the food, and you dressed up and all of these things. And you tell the person ahead of time, like, come and spend time with me. And this is your spouse. This is the person you're in a relationship with. So it's expected that they will come, right? And you went on the date and everything because they said they're going to drive there. And you're sitting and you're waiting, and an hour passed, and 2 hours passed, and 3 hours passed, and the person doesn't show up. And then you just decide, okay, well, what is this? You find out later on that the person didn't show up because they were actually out with somebody else. They were actually out with a different person that they like, or a different person that their heart is towards, or that they have feelings for, and stuff like that. You would feel awful. You would feel so bad. And not only would you feel bad, you would get jealous. No, God gets jealous of us. For us, it is so natural to like want something, to desire something, and to not have it, to want the person's attention and to not have it. We would get jealous, but God also gets jealous of us. But his jealousy is not this insecure or selfish jealousy. His jealousy is justified, and his jealousy is a righteous jealousy because we belong to him. We were made for him. He created us for him. So for us to go and want to put our attention on other things, put our attention or all of our attention on other people, or to put all of our attention on other like the job, or to put our attention on the money, and to do it more than him, that's when it becomes idolatry. That's when it becomes an idol. That's when it becomes a problem. The Bible actually says that God is a jealous God, and he is a God that is jealous about us, right? In Joshua 24:19, it says, "Then Joshua warned the people, 'You are not able to serve the Lord, for he is a holy and a jealous God. He will not forgive your rebellion and your sins. If you abandon the Lord and serve other gods, he will turn against you and destroy you, even though he has been so good to you.'" And then Deuteronomy 6:14-15, it says, "You shall not follow other gods, any other gods of the people who surround you. For the Lord your God is among you, and he is a jealous God, demanding what is rightfully and uniquely his. Otherwise, the anger of the Lord your God will be kindled and burned against you, and he will destroy you from the face of the earth." So this is what was being said. It was saying, like, listen, God don't play about us. Like, get you somebody who does not play about you. Not like somebody, like some things, especially as females, like we get in a relationship, males too, of course. I'm a female, so I have to speak from this side. It's like we want somebody who does not play about us, who's like, I don't play about my girl. It's like, I don't want anybody messing around my girl. Even if it was me, like if it's my boyfriend or my spouse or my husband, it's like, I'm not playing about that person. Of course, I wouldn't want the person's heart to be towards somebody else. Of course, I wouldn't want the person to be desiring or craving or enjoying somebody else more than they're enjoying me. And the thing is, God does not play about us. God is like, nah, I want you. I want your attention on me. And rightfully so. Like I said before, he made us for him. He desires us. He made us for him. And we choose to look the other way. We choose to look at other things and to look at them more than him. We choose to want things more than him, to allow ourselves to be satisfied by things more than he does. And what the Bible is telling us is that he's a jealous God. He doesn't play about us. He's like, nah, you are my daughter. You are my son. And I want your attention. You have all of my attention. I want you to give me yours. And it's not like he's expecting you to just disregard responsibilities or disregard the things that you have to do in life. But he's saying at the core of it, at the core of your attention, it must be on me. And it must be on me first. And me meaning obviously God. So it's not that you're disregarding responsibilities. It's not that you can't love these things. It's not that you can't love the job. It's not that you can't love these things. But it is just that when it comes to your attention, when it comes to your heart, he wants that you are placing it on him. He wants that you are esteeming him higher than any other thing in your life. And what we do, we place so many things in our life, we place them higher. We place the people higher, we place the things higher, we place everything higher than God. Can you imagine how that would feel? We keep putting things ahead of God when God is saying, just look at me, just focus your attention on me, because I want you, because I love you, because I made you, with a purpose. I have a plan for you. I love you so much that I get jealous about you. Like when you go and you want to pay attention to these other things more than me, it's like I get jealous about that and I don't like it. I want you to focus on me and I'm going to focus on you. My attention will always be on you, but I need your attention at the core of it and ultimately to be on me. That's what God is saying. People don't only call him a jealous God, but we also see that he called himself a jealous God. He says in Exodus 24:5, you shall not make for yourself any idol or any likeness, form, or manifestation of what is in heaven above, or on earth beneath, or in the water underneath the earth, as an object to worship. You shall not worship them nor serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. Obviously demanding what is rightfully and uniquely mine. That's a lot, but what we are seeing is that God himself is saying, I am a jealous God. I am jealous over my creation. What other God is like that? What other God that people choose to serve, right? And I call them like common letter G gods. Like what else says that? Like we pay so much attention to other things. So let's say it's the phone. Our phone, let me not say my phone gets me in trouble. Like, I love YouTube. Okay, look at the whole YouTube channel. I absolutely love YouTube. I love YouTube. But the thing is, sometimes it could be an idol in my life where I'm placing it above God. YouTube is not saying that it's jealous about me. YouTube is not saying, well, like, and Haley, you spending too much time at work, come and spend time with me. Like, I don't get a notification popping up saying, like, come and spend time with me. But God does that. God draws us near to him. He nudges us to come near him. So he might not say, hey, Peter, come and spend time with me. You might hear him, but you might also feel just a pull that I should be reading my Bible now, you know. So he draws us, he wants us, and he does this because he does get jealous about us. And it is a righteous and a justified jealousy, not an insecure jealousy. The reason why idolatry and this whole issue of idols is so important is because they have some negative consequences. We see the negative consequences before. We see like where he's telling the people in the Bible is like, and this was his people, his specific people, the Israelites. I will have to further explain that in another video. But his specific people, he's telling them, listen to me. Y'all out here serving these other gods, I'm going to wipe y'all from the earth because y'all playing with me. Like, I did this for you. I did that for you. I did all of this for you. And you are going to go and do this? And isn't that like us? Isn't that just like us? And this is how we know we can have a relationship with God, because he is this relational person. It's like us. It's like, that's what we would say if it was us. If it was that our spouse was making us jealous, it's like, I did this for you. I did that for you. And you went ahead and did this. And this is what God is telling the people in the Bible. And he's saying that I did all of these things for you. I loved you, and you're doing this. I would wipe you from the earth. So the truth is, the consequences of idolatry is destruction. Because idolatry is a sin, it can lead to death. Sin equals death, right? So because idolatry is a sin, it can lead to death and destruction. But not only physical destruction even of our lives. When we begin to put these things above God, we are unable to function to the best of our ability. Another effect, I would say, or another consequence is that idolatry causes, or worshiping idols, and remember when we say worshiping, we mean loving more, craving more, desiring more than God. It causes or it threatens your relationship with God. And the example I would give is one in my life. So from my life specifically, I remember when God told me that this relationship was an idol, or this person was an idol in my life. And he was really showing me that you need to choose either me or the person. And remember, it is not that I couldn't love the person, it's that I cannot love the person more than God. And that is what I was doing. And God wanted me to choose between him and God. You might say, what type of God would do that? A God that does not want me serving other idols. A God that does not want me putting other men before him. A God that loves me, desires me, wants me, satisfies me. And I'm placing somebody ahead of him is like, no, that type of God. He's like, no, I don't want that. And that relationship with that person was threatening my relationship with God. Because while God was saying, I don't want you having sex, I don't want you fornicating, I don't want you masturbating, I don't want you watching pornography. While he was saying, I don't want you going to this particular place, I don't want you doing this or that. The relationship I had with that person was all of those things. So it's like, it's either I have this relationship with this guy or I have this relationship with God, but they cannot exist together. They're complete opposites. So the relationship with this guy is threatening my relationship with God. And that is what happens when you commit idolatry, where you have idols. The idol is threatening your relationship with God because you have to put one above the other. One always has to go over the other. And that might be for you. You may have somebody in your life that you're like, man, I know I'm supposed to be doing this, but I want to do this with this person. I know that God requires me to do this, but I want to do this. I want to say this. I want to have this. And sometimes you may even feel like spending time with the Lord, but then you're like, nah, I just want to be with this person. The thing is, that is threatening your relationship with God. I remember when I even had to break up with the person, and I remember I was watching this video, and the person, I think the pastor had said, like, you know that you need to let go of somebody. Yes, when God didn't start it, but also is that you are basically doing things and engaging in things that is messing with your relationship with the Lord. Idols mess with your relationship with God. Idols mess with your intimacy with God. The same way how if you are in this relationship with this person, and though you're in this relationship with this person, somebody else has caught your eye and you begin to have relations with that person. The truth is that relationship that you have with this other person, with this, I don't like saying side piece, I hate to say it, but with that other person, it is threatening your current relationship. It's threatening the intimacy, the union, the ability to love the love in this current relationship. And that is what idols do. Idols threaten our relationship with God. And that is just the consequence that we face. So we said all of that, but the truth is, we could talk about idols for days, but how do you know when you have an idol? That's the important thing. Number one is when God exposes it. Most of the time, we can't tell when we have an idol in our life. We don't know because we think it's just this natural thing. Like, I thought it was cool to got my boyfriend, having my boyfriend like first and everything is I'm gonna put my man first. Put him first. He's going to be first in my life. I thought it was okay. I didn't recognize that the person was an idol. I didn't recognize that the relationship was an idol. I didn't know. So number one, the way that you know that you have an idol in your life is when God exposes it. How does he expose it? When you ask him, say a quick prayer, Lord, I pray that you would show me all of the idols in my life. When you pray that, be ready to see them because he will show you. And he might not say, well, for some of you, he might literally say in this moment, car. He might say a house. He might say the person's name. You might feel it already in your spirit. You might already feel and sense, you know what the idol is. But he could also just nudge you. Like during the week, you might realize that you on the game. Let's say it's like gaming, right? And you playing the game or whatever. And all of a sudden, you got to start like, I spend like hours on this though. He's revealing to you that that's the idol in your life. So how do you know when you have an idol? When God exposes it, when he reveals it to you. And he reveals it to you when you ask him. Don't ask him once. Ask him until he shows you. Put a demand on God. Like, God, I need you to show me what are the idols in my life. Another idol in my life would have been makeup. So I'm a makeup girly. I always have been. Okay, let me stop. I always have been. I am like the girly girl. I don't think I have a boyish bone in my body at all. Like, I am just girly girl. Like, look at the background. Like, there's the flowers and the colors and I'm a girly girl, okay? And I love makeup. I do, right? Before, I would always put like concealer under my eyes. Like, your girl is not leaving home unless concealer is under her eyes. I am not leaving home unless concealer is under my eyes. Why? Because I was very insecure about like the bags under my eyes. So I would always put it on. If it wasn't powder, it was concealer. And if it wasn't concealer, it was foundation. I just needed to have it on. One day last year, really, just last year, I was, I think, spending time with God, and God was just highlighting idolatry. So when I say highlight, it doesn't mean that he's saying, Haley, you have idols. It's just like it keeps coming up. Like every conversation I have, every video I watch, like it just keeps coming up constantly. So I know, okay, God is trying to get my attention about this thing. And he required me to just stop wearing it as much. And we're going to get into that later. But for me, it's like God had to expose that to me. He had to expose that makeup was the idol. It was the thing that I was putting before him. How? Because what he revealed to me is like, Haley, you put that on. You make sure you put on that concealer every single day before you leave home. But you don't spend time with me every single day. You don't make sure that you pray to me every single day. You don't make sure that you pray to me before you leave home every day. But you make sure that thing under your eye though. And it's like I'm putting it before him, if that makes sense. That's something that I was doing. But the only reason I knew that is because he exposed it to me, because he showed me that this is the idol in my life. Another way that you would know you have an idol is where you ask the question, what am I putting first in my life? Ask yourself that. What comes first in my life? What is it that I put first? Children can be idols. Like if you're a parent and you're watching, you know your child can be an idol. And you might say, no, my child can't be an idol. Of course I have to put my child first. You should put your child first, but you can't put them above God. You still cannot put your child above God. So responsibilities and things that you put first can become idols. They can. So God is not saying to drop your responsibilities, drop your child, drop all these things that you have to do, drop your chores. But he's saying, put me first. Before you go and you just, get your child wake on morning, just say a quick, Lord, I thank you for waking me up this morning. You put him first. Before you go and you just start to wash your car because your car looking a little bad, it looking horrible, or you go to clean out your car because it looks a type of way, it's like, Lord, I thank you for the car. It's like, okay, let me do a quick devotion. I know it's about to rain, but let me just spend some time with the Lord before I go out. Yes, you have responsibilities, you have duties, you have obligations. That is great. Yes, you may have to put them first. That is okay. But where you put it over God or before God, you decide to put these things before him, you are in danger of making an idol. Every responsibility, everything you put first isn't an idol, but it can become an idol if you are not careful. So for me, there is this thing that I have been doing recently, and I remember like God revealing it to me. I was like, Lord, I'm trying to put you first, and I'm trying to put this first, and I just don't know like how, because this is very important, but you are important also. But God is telling me, I'm not telling you that you can't do this thing. What I'm saying is that you need to prioritize me. Put me at the heart of it, at the core of it, or you might be in danger of making that thing an idol. Another way that you know you have an idol is if it is sin. Where you are sinning, there can be some form of idolatry in there. Why? Because God does not want you to sin. He commands you. You're not supposed to be sinning. And where you're doing it, you're putting this act above him. You're putting this thing above him, right? So in sinning, just generally, there's a form of idolatry. So you might be struggling with a particular sin right now, whatever it may be. Where it is that you engage in that sin, where it is that you do it, there may be a form of idolatry in it. And I just feel to tell somebody this. You might be sinning and you're trying to figure out, how do I stop sinning? How do I stop doing, not sinning, but how do I stop doing this particular act or this thing because I know it's a sin? Well, what I would say is, instead of just praying, because you've been praying, and I mean, you've been praying and praying and praying, you've been asking God, like, God, I no longer want to do this thing. Take this thing from me. Let's say it's pornography, and I always use that example. But let's say that it is that, and you're like, I don't know how to stop. You've been praying that God removes this thing, but perhaps you need to pray for your heart and pray that you stop committing idolatry. So you've been praying like, God, help me to stop doing this act. But you might need to pray, Lord, help me no longer to make this thing an idol. Help me no longer to put it above or ahead of you. Try praying that. Try praying that. And it's a good prayer to pray, because sometimes we are just hitting at the branches where the root of the sin is idolatry. You're trying to target the branches, and you're praying and you're binding and you're fasting to get rid of this thing. But the root of the sin is idol worship. The root of this thing is that you're honoring this thing, respecting this thing, craving and desiring this thing more than you are craving and desiring God. You are being satisfied by this thing more than you are being satisfied with God. And the thing is, especially in our lives, sometimes, so for example, if there's somebody who's engaging in fornication, that you sleeping with someone, you sleeping with your boyfriend or your girlfriend, you are satisfied by this thing. Let's be real, is that you are satisfied by it, but you are placing it above God by doing it. You're not just doing the act, but within the act, there's some idolatry, because God is saying not to do it, but you're doing it, and you are so satisfied by this thing and satisfied by it more than God. And the truth is, God is the one who needs to satisfy us. God is the one who needs to help us. So I know the urges sometimes are so hard and they're so difficult to overcome, but you need to say, Lord, help me to be satisfied by you. When I get the urge, when I get the desire, when I feel this way, help me to run to you, because you ultimately satisfy me. When you made me to be fully satisfied by you. That is why you might have people who commit suicide because they have all the money and all the fame and all the girls and all the guys and everything, all the career, but they still commit suicide. Yes, because sometimes of mental health issues and because of mental health and stuff like that, but also because they have not been satisfied by the things that they have been chasing. And some of you have been chasing after things that have not been satisfying you. You left home, you went to the boyfriend's house, you had sex, you came home and you bawling out because it's like that didn't, in the moment it was was good, but like no, it didn't. I don't feel satisfied by it. Some of you keep running after the girl over and over and over because you believe that she satisfies you in this area. But the reason you keep going back for more is because she's not satisfying you. And I don't mean sexually. I mean like generally, she's not fulfilling that hole, that desire that only God can fulfill. I went off a little bit, but bringing it back, what I wanted to say is that where it is that you are sinning, there's a form of idolatry in there. So you know you have an idol where you might be sinning in a particular area. There may be, because it might not be strictly idolatry, but there may be idolatry within there. Another way that you would know, or how you would know you have an idol, is when you ask the question, who am I following more than God? We follow celebrities, we follow actors, we follow like all of these people. Like the whole of social media is about following. I literally told you to follow me at the beginning. At the beginning of this video, right? And the truth is it bad to follow these people? No. Like even Paul in the Bible, he says, follow me as I follow Christ. I believe that's the verse. It's not bad to follow these people, but it is when you are following them more than God and the godly things. When you are following them more than God. But obviously you want to make sure that you are following people in line with your values, right? That's what I want to say. People in line with your values and your beliefs, right? And the thing is, we follow all sorts of people and we follow them more than God. Like we have celebrities that we know every song. We know every word. We know every lyric. We know when it dropped. We know when the brand dropped. We know when they dropped the makeup brand. We know when they dropped the clothing brand. We know when they're going on the stage. We know when they're coming to Barbados. We know when they're not coming to Barbados. We know when they're in London. We know every single thing about them because we are following them. We know when they got pregnant. We know when they had the baby mama. We know everything, okay, about this person. We know when they went this place, that place. We know everything about them because we're following them. And we follow these celebrities more than we follow God. Truthfully, when it comes down to it, the celebrity is not going to pick you over themselves. They're just not. They're going to pick themselves. But you have a God that picked you. He decided that he's going to send his son, that he's going to allow his son to die just so that he can have a relationship with you. You have a God that picked you. Right? These celebrities are not picking you. I'm not saying that you can't follow them. Like there's some celebrities that I follow. There's some of them that I absolutely love. There's some role models I absolutely love. Some shows I absolutely love. But the thing is, those people are not going to pick me. But I know a God who picked me, who's chosen me, who's called me. And the thing is, what you need to begin to ask is, who am I following more than I'm following God? Who do I know more about more than I know about God? Who is it that I'm following? And when you begin to do that, you would begin to recognize, okay, this may be an idol in my life. The last one that I would share would be, how do you know you have an idol? Where it is that you find it hard or difficult to let go of a thing, where you know you're supposed to let go of it, but you can't. Or even if you don't know you're supposed to let go of it, you just find it so difficult to let go of this thing. So the example I would want to use here is, what is it that you find difficult to let go of? For me, I would use the example of the area in which I study. So I have wanted to be in this area for years. I have wanted to do this particular area. Like my career was the most important thing to me. So I studied, I broke a rest. I did not have the best eating habits or health habits because I just desired to make sure I meet this goal. Our goals, great, yes. Our aims, great. Dreams and stuff, great, yes. But for me, this was just the thing that I wanted. And when it came a time where God took it from me, I found it so hard to let go. I was bawling, I was crying, I was like, Lord, you made me study all of these years. I just going off because I felt so bad that for me to he's taking this thing from me, he's taking part of me from me. And that's how it felt. That's because this thing was an idol in my life. I'm not saying that when you let go of something, you're not going to cry. But when it is to that point, like when it is to the point, like how it was for me, when it's to the point where I literally feel like piece of me is being torn away, that is how you know it is an idol. For you, it could be partying, it could be just going out fetting, partying, drinking. It's like, I can't stop. I'm sorry, like I just cannot stop. Like I am Caribbean, I love a waistline, like I love all this. Like that might be you. You might be saying that, and it might be so hard for you to just let go of that life. That is how you know that it might be an idol in your life. I'm not saying it specifically is, but I'm saying that it could be an idol in your life because you're finding it so hard to let go of it. You're finding it so difficult to let go of it, but you're finding it easy to let go of God. And lastly, what I want to speak about, because we went through what are idols and idolatry, we went through how do you know when you have an idol. I want to speak about how do we get rid of the idols. You can't keep the idol. Like, let's be honest, the whole point of this conversation is to say, hey, you got an idol, time to get rid of it, right? For me, it is like, you got an idol, it's time to get rid of it. So to go through this, I just want to break down scripture. It's in Judges, it's about Gideon, and Gideon is one of my absolute favorite characters in the Bible. So we're just going to be reading from Judges 6:25 to 30. Now on that same night, the Lord said to Gideon, take your father's bull, the second bull, 7 years old, and tear down the altar of Baal. Baal is a god, common G god. It was one of their gods, right? That belongs to your father. And cut down the Asherah pole that is beside it, and build an altar to the Lord your God on top of this mountain stronghold, with stones laid down in an orderly way. Then take the second bull and offer a burnt sacrifice using the wood of the Asherah, which you shall cut down. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants and did just as the Lord had told him. But because he was too afraid of his father's household relatives and the men of the city to do it during daylight, he did it at night. Verse 28. Early the next morning, when the men of the city got up, they discovered that the altar of Baal was torn down, and the Asherah, which was beside it, was cut down, and the second bull was offered on the altar which had been built. So they said to one another, who has done this thing? When they searched about and inquired, they were told, Gideon the son of Joash did it. Then the men of the city said to Joash, bring out your son so that he may be executed, because he has torn down the altar of Baal and cut down the Asherah, which was beside it. And then it goes on, I won't read any more. So that story, that just little snippet, that shows us what we do with idols, right? So that's what we're talking about. What do we do? You just realized, you just found out, hey, I got an idol in my life. Might be time to get rid of this thing, right? And even in my life. But I'm telling you, what I tell God is, do not let me speak to you without me first getting it. I need to understand it, or I don't want to say go through it, but I need to see it in my life. So he deals with me before he deals with you. So if you think I'm coming down a little harsh on you, trust me, I got the harshness first, okay? I got the correction and the discipline first. And he dealt with me on this. So even in our lives, when you think of, okay, have an idol, what do I do? How do I get rid of an idol? Number one, you tear them down. So we see that God told Gideon in verse 25 to tear down the altar or the idol of Baal, right? Tear down could also mean to remove. It could mean pull down. It could mean put away. It could mean get rid of. It could mean destroy. It could mean leave. So different idols require different things. For that specific idol in the Bible, we see that God required Gideon to pull it down. Pull it down. Different versions say different things, but all of it means basically to pull down that idol, right? What is the idol in your life? You have to ask God, how do I get rid of it? For my life, when it came to the makeup, the way that God dealt with it, he didn't tell me to stop wearing it altogether, like just throw it away. He didn't tell me to throw it away. But what he did and what he led me to do, I believe, is I had to stop wearing it, like just for a period. And it felt so impossible for me to leave home without having the makeup on. It felt so impossible for me to actually leave without it because I just hated to see it. So I remember the first day where I was like, okay, I'm going to be obedient and I'm not going to wear it. Oh, it was so hard. It was so hard. I felt so naked. I was like, oh my gosh, people probably think I'm a zombie. I look so sleepy. And then after that, I did it again. And I remember specifically, I was walking through town and I just looked in with one of the windows in a store. And I was like, I don't look that bad. I was like, I don't look that bad. I didn't realize because I had this thing so high in my life and I thought I had to do this thing. I just thought I needed to do this thing. I didn't realize I didn't even need it at all. I didn't even need this idol. So for me, it was, I needed to stop wearing it for a period. I know I could take off this makeup and I could have a whole video. And yeah, I might feel a little insecure at first, but I could do a whole video without the makeup on. Before, I would not have been able to do that. What was required for Gideon is to pull it down. For your idol, it might be something else. It might be to pull it down. It might be to get rid of it. It might be to destroy it. It might be to put it away. It might be to remove it. It requires different things. An example I would use is there's this Christian movie called Fireproof. If you never watched it, it's good. It's very old, but it's great. It's very good. And the guy in the movie, he was addicted to watching pornography. So he would have like the desktop and he would always watch it. The wife found out and everything, right? And when he was coming to Christ, learning about Christ, he realized, I can't be doing this anymore. That was an idol in his life when you think about it. And one day he just like tuck it up and he took it outside and literally think he took a bat or something and just began like beating the computer, like just destroying the computer. That idol in his life, what he was required to do was to destroy it. The idol in your life, you might be required to destroy it. If the idol is your child, am I saying to destroy your child? No. So don't be crazy. But what I'm saying is like different idols require different things. It might be with a child, prioritize God more. For me, it was get rid of the thing for a season, for a little bit. For you, it might be to pull down something, to remove something. For a lot of us, the way to get rid of the idol is to leave, especially in relationships. If the person is an idol in your life, I'm not saying just hop up and get up and go, right? But I'm saying for some of us, you may require to leave. How do I know this? When you look in the Bible, and you look at the Israelites, they were living in Egypt, and Pharaoh and all of the Egyptians and everybody, they had all of these idols and all of these statues and all of these things, all these different gods. And the Israelites, God's people, they were living in Egypt, so they were amongst all of these gods. Then God called them away from Egypt and said, look, I'm taking y'all away and taking you to a promised land, the land I'm promising you that got milk and that got honey and that got all of these different things, right? And he's doing that. God did not remove the idols from in Egypt where his people was. He removed the Israelites. He removed his people from the idols. He made them leave. You need to leave. Like, can we just say that some of us, you have an idol in your life that's a relationship, that's a boyfriend, that's a girlfriend. Perhaps it may even be a job. And I'm not saying get up and quit your job. I'm saying go to God and ask him how to deal with your idol. But perhaps it's a relationship. You need to leave. And I'm not saying it's the easiest thing. I went through it. It is difficult. It breaks you. But I rather you put God first and be broken for a season than to put these things first and to allow yourself to be completely shattered and destroyed and never could be able to recover because you've put these things in your life first and it's destroyed your life. When it is that you do decide to leave, as some of you may need to, don't take the pattern with you. Don't take the pattern of idolatry with you. With the Israelites, when they left Egypt, they still knew how to make these idols, right? They still knew how to make these graven images. And they took that practice and that pattern with them. Airplane. When you leave, don't take the practices that you did with the idol, for the idol, with you. That's what I would say. Another way that you get rid of the idol, or not another way, something else you need to do when you're getting rid of idols is do not delay. We see here that Gideon, though he was a little afraid, right? He still dealt with the idol. Yes, he didn't do it in the day because he was scared, but he still dealt with it. He didn't delay that long, I would say. He dealt with it at night. He made sure that he was obedient. So when you recognize that you have an idol, don't lollygag, don't play around with it. Start today, be like, okay, how do I get rid of these things? Start to pray and say, Lord, help me, because I don't know. I don't know how to get rid of this idol. Yes, some of it is a process. For some of us, getting rid of these idols are a process. But do not delay in this moment to at least say, Lord, I recognize I have an idol. I don't want it to go. Help me. That is not delaying. That's taking the first step. Even if you can't leave or remove the thing right away, begin to take the first step and say, Lord, I see the idol. I confess that I have an idol in my life. I don't know how to get rid of it. I don't even want to get rid of it. But I'm telling you this so that you can help me. So do not delay. Another thing, when it is that you are dealing with idols, something else that you need to know is do it afraid. It says that Gideon, right, was afraid. So instead of doing it in the daytime, like I said, he did it at night. You're going to be afraid. Like, you're going to be scared. I remember having to break up with the person. I was petrified. Like, I was so scared because I was like, this person, I've known this person all majority of my life. How do I do this? How do I get rid of this? How do I leave, right? But I had to do it afraid. Do it afraid. Do it afraid. And I know it's not something we like to hear because we know God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. But as human, you do get afraid sometimes. And though Gideon was afraid, he still dealt with it. He still went ahead and he was obedient. Also, when having to remove an idol, when you realize you have an idol, something you want to know when it comes to getting rid of it is that people are going to get mad. When you look at the scripture, you see, I believe in verse 29, it said, so they said to one another, these are the people when Gideon pulled down the people idol. It says, who has done this thing? When they searched about and inquired, they were told, Gideon, the son of Joash, did it. Then the men of the city said to Joash, bring out your son so that he may be executed, because he tore down the altar of Baal and cut down the Asherah which was beside it. This man was mad. This man was like, this man pulled down our idol. He can't be for real, to the point where they were willing to kill him. When you try to get rid of an idol, people are going to get vexed. Perhaps you have partying as your idol, right? You love to party. Fair, right? Cool. You decide, okay, I want to start doing it as much, right? Because I realize this might not be honoring God this might not be honoring God in the way I thought it was. This might not be honoring God. This might be messing with me, right? You decide that that's what you want to get rid of. You think people not gonna get upset? They're gonna be like, you change. They're gonna be like, well, you don't party no more. They're gonna be like, you not the same anymore. I remember when I stopped doing certain things. Listen, I can tell you that people was like, you don't do this, you don't do that no more. You don't like hanging out. You don't speak like this no more. The truth is, people got upset. People probably thought it was weird, and all of that. I had to deal with all of it. But the thing is, people are going to get mad, but you still have to do it. When it comes to idols, where the idol is benefiting other person's lives, they're going to get upset. But you need to get rid of this thing for you and for your life. We live too much for people. This is something I recognize. And lastly, what I would say afterwards, Gideon was required to go and build an altar. If it wasn't Gideon, it was also Joshua. I believe both of them were supposed to build an altar unto the Lord. And an altar is just this place where you would go and worship. An altar is this place, this structure that the believers and the people who believed in God would make to not only worship, but to have an encounter with God. Not only to have an encounter with God, or not only to worship, but to also meet with God. And that is what you need to do. You need to build an altar. Now, I'm not saying a physical altar, but you need to begin to worship God more. You need to begin to meet with God more. And some of the idols in our life, like one of them could just be the voice of man. We put too much weight on our voice and our thoughts and our feelings more than God. And if I'm not speaking to anybody, I'm speaking over myself. I'm speaking to myself. And it's time that we stop, and it's time that we build that altar. We set aside that time. We meet with God. We worship God, and we encounter God. The last thing I would tell you is choose this day which God you're going to serve. When you look at Joshua 24, I believe it's Joshua 24:29, he tells the people, he tells them, look, you need to choose this day which God you're going to serve. You need to choose which God. Are you going to serve the boyfriend? Are you going to serve the job? Are you going to serve the money? What are you going to serve, right? Are you going to serve these things? Or are you going to serve the true and living God? You need to choose which God you're going to serve. So even right now, you can begin to say, Lord, change my heart, because idolatry is a heart posture, is something in the heart. You just don't start craving and loving and wanting this thing more than God. It starts in your heart first. And that's something someone in my life told me recently. It is a heart posture, it's a heart condition. That's where it starts. So extremely long video, but it's a very important video nonetheless. I thought it was very important to just share this, especially because it was something that was hitting me, okay? And I had to repent. Even as I was saying this, I had to ask God for forgiveness in my life, because I realized I had some idols. But I just want to say that thank you for watching the video. I really appreciate you watching it. Of course, like always, you can share the video, share it to somebody that you know, share it to somebody that you think needs to see it. Don't only share it here, share it like on Instagram, share it on Facebook, share it to somebody. Click the particular part that you like and save it for yourself and send it to somebody who needs to see it, because there's somebody on your phone who's dealing with this, and just you sending it to them can help them. Comment what part of the video stood out to you, which part hit you, which part felt good, and which part rubbed you a little bit too much. It was like, nah, you grab it. Let me call it there, Haley. Like, what part of it stood out to you? Like the video, because it absolutely helps. And then lastly, follow me on the various social media pages. So again, on Facebook, on Instagram, and now on Twitter. Not Twitter, on TikTok, where you'll be seeing behind the scenes encouraging videos, where you'll be seeing just encouragement, just these random things that I'm just going to post various times, really. And majority of the content is probably going to be there. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can DM me, you can message me on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. I love to respond to you. I promise I will get to the messages, even if I take a long time. I'm gonna get to it, okay? Enjoy your week. I pray that you have a good day. Thank you for listening. Bye.